There we go. All right, Jackie, take us away with some fun facts today.
Okay, so as part of our monthly newsletter, we do put in some fun facts or trivia questions. So this month, the questions had to do with our current grant management system. So how long has the current system been used for grant management? And the second question had to do with in what year did invoicing for reimbursement of federal funds begin in the grant system? So I don't know if any of you got this on your own or not, or have been here long enough to know, but I have been here long enough to have seen the original start of transitioning from paper grant applications to using technology to assist us. So in 2004, there were 10 units who piloted our grant management system. In 2005, we had some more districts move on to continue the pilot. And then in FY 2006, all SAUs transitioned from a paper system to the automated system. And the programs who were participating were ESEA, IDEA, and CTE. So the second question, in what year did the invoicing for reimbursement of federal funds begin? The department transitioned from forward funding grants to a reimbursement system on July 1, 2011. So our plan at that time to transition all the individual federal year funds from forward funding to a reimbursement model. We had our FY10 funds that was on a continued on a paper reimbursement system until those were closed out. Then the FY11 funds, we transitioned all those balances into the electronic system, and then districts just requested the reimbursement of those remaining fund balances of that older year. And then the FY12 funds became fully automated using the electronic grant reimbursement system. So we've made this transition in the past, and as you'll hear going forward, we will be making the transition to a new system, and we will figure out what those steps will be as we make that transition.
Thank you, Jackie. I can't imagine what it must have looked like when it was the paper grant management system.
Oh, it was fun times. 3 copies of everything in paper, and it got distributed to all the individual teams. And then we had one major grant file. It was all fun managing that.
Oh, goodness. All right.
Just a follow-up to the Title I reallocated grant funds. We did have 54 applications that were received with over $1.9 million requested. But in the end, our funds are limited, and we supported 37 proposals with $1.4 million. So there were some happy people and some not so happy people, but we are limited to what we can do based on our amount of funding. All people should have been notified of their status, hearing directly from me. And if you have not, please contact me and let me know. Right now, I've just communicated with the ESEA coordinator or the person whose name was on the front of the application. But the final grant award information will be sent to superintendents and the persons completing the proposals. And hopefully I'll have those out by the end of next week. So you'll be able to move forward with the planning of those summer programs. I think I'm doing this one. I'll continue. No one's stopping me, so I'll continue. Within our newsletter, we always, on a monthly basis, go back to our year at a glance planner that's posted out on our website. And so one of the items for the month of April was to begin development of your new year ESEA applications. And in order to do that, it is always good to have your preliminary awards. So those have been posted out to our website for a month or two anyways. So that's one piece of information you need. For Title I, accessing your school level poverty data to begin identifying your Title I eligible schools and ensuring that they are still eligible is a good idea. If a school was grandfathered last year, you need to really look at their data this year to make sure they're eligible, or if they're not, they may not be eligible for funds in this coming year. But you can always contact me and we can talk that through. You want to be making your plans for updating your district and school level comprehensive needs assessment with pulling your assessment data, your spring assessment data, and then preparing to review that data and making adjustments to those plans. And then prepare for any stakeholder feedback or input that you may need for both your plans and then for your application development team. So it's just kind of a push to get you thinking, make your plan now so you'll be ready as you have to move this all forward over the next few months. So
Right. Oh,
there is a question. It says, do you want us to use April 1, 2021 data for poverty levels or October 1, 2020? Good question. It doesn't matter which month you use, as long as the data from that month is used consistently across all your schools. You can't pick and choose which month you prefer for which school. Just pick a month and use that data for all your schools.
All right. And then the link is in the April newsletter for this year at a glance as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Krista is asking about the which year's data to use when it comes to Title I school level poverty. And you would want to use your most current one. However, we know that it's not always as accurate as it could be because of the free meals that are being provided to students through the National School Lunch Program waiver. So if need be, you may use last year's data, the previous year's data, to determine your rank and distribution. The federal government provided us guidance indicating we could do that at the state level when we do allocations for those states that are able to use alternative data. So for Maine, we did use last year's data to determine your FY22 allocation. And within that guidance, they also provided the option for LEAs to be able to use the previous year's data for rank and distribution purposes. So good question, Krista, thank you. This slide is focusing on non-public school survey. The annual data collection for non-public school enrollment and economically disadvantaged student counts is being published, we hope, this week. It should be going out soon via the commissioner's office and priority notice releases. So hopefully that's out. It doesn't impact public school districts at this point, except that it's good for you to know that we the state, are surveying and trying to obtain that data for you. With that data, when we receive it, we'll be determining the Title II and Title IV equitable service percentages as we do annually. And we'll also be doing the same for collecting the economically disadvantaged student information for Title I equitable services. And the Title I is required only for those from those non-public schools that participate in a Title I program. But we're hoping that we receive all the enrollment counts from all those non-public schools. And then we'll be able to have that data available to you. It's not coming in now until the end of May. So we really won't be able to have those percentages and Title I amounts available to you. No, it's coming in May 15th, the middle of May. So hopefully we'll have all that information all put together and ready for the 1st of June. So it will take us a little bit of time to put that all together and get that information out to school districts. And
All
so
right.
off to Travis.
Travis.
So Dan is not with us today, but I told him I would cover the little update he had here for us. So quite recently, I think either in January or February, the federal government released some new guidance specific to the Title V program. And so if you're a state or federal Title V recipient, I would encourage you to take a look at this new guidance information located here. I'm also including a link to that document in the chat. But basically what this serves as is updated, what I'm going to call non-regulatory guidance. It's not specifically titled that, but it's essentially the same sort of document from the federal government, and just basically outlines the do's and don'ts, serves to answer a lot of common questions around transferability and things like alternative fund use authority. So really a lot of good, solid information for folks who may have questions specific to Title V and some of the flexibilities that you can leverage under that program.
Thanks, Travis. All right, so this one's mine. What's new? So we have our data. Our data? Our data that has been impacted by COVID-19, and Penny has done a new data dashboard. That's what it was. And then because as a direct result of the COVID-19 global pandemic, we were not able to capture all of the data that we would typically capture and report out on the data dashboard. So that gave us a perfect opportunity for giving it a facelift. And so the new data dashboard is now up for review. And what is showing now is the current version is currently under district review, and the review period ends actually this week. But if you're interested in seeing more than the sneak preview that we're going to give you, you can email us and ask us for the link or ask for it today. And then the public release to the MDOE website is currently planned for Monday, May 3rd. And then once that data dashboard is publicly released, we recommend that posting this information on your district's webpage as well as sharing it with your families. And so what does this new data dashboard look like? This is the new refreshed idea of the data dashboard, and it has a new look, as you can tell. And then the school and district selection is located up at the top. You can select the year currently. We're only going to have the last 3 years up there. And then you can select either by district or by school, and it automatically will then determine in the drop-down menu for the select name. If you've selected district, it'll list all the district's names. If you selected school, it'll revert to the schools. And then there's an information icon up on the upper right-hand corner that provides guidance using the landing page. And then within the dashboard itself, you can always use the home button to return to this landing page, or there'll also be this thing that Penny fondly calls the hamburger menu, which is the click the 3-line icon to view more navigation options. So that's the new look of our data dashboard that is about to be released. And so we just wanted to give you a sneak preview of that.
Cheryl, looks like Dawn has a question.
Absolutely.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Dawn.
I have a question for you. I was reviewing our data dashboard recently, and I was very concerned about the teacher certification and qualifications piece. Is there going to be, I can foresee parents looking at that and seeing that being a high number and going, whoa, like, how is it possible that 30% of our teachers aren't qualified? So is there going to be some sort of explanation how that number was derived? Because I think unless you work with it all the time, it's easy to have a misperception be about that number.
Absolutely. Great question, Dawn. So first off, let me just say that there was some inconsistencies with that originally in the onset, and that's why these reviews are so good. So that was brought to our attention and has been corrected. So hopefully the numbers won't look so drastic that it does have cause for concern. As far as, is there going to be an explanation? I'll pass that question on to the data team and say that that was not only a question, but also maybe a suggestion to consider for when it does get released. Okay.
Is it going to
Yes.
be released on May 3rd?
That's the
Estimated.
time of release
Okay.
right now. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that? All right. Travis, I think I'm bouncing it back to you.
Yep. So as Jackie had alluded to with our fun and interesting facts earlier this morning, we are right now in the process of transitioning from our current GEM platform to a newly dubbed Grants for Me platform. And so what this system is going to be is essentially our new statewide grant management system. And so it'll house applications, invoices, performance reports, etc. Now, we have a few different sets of training dates coming up specific to using this new platform. You'll note that there's basically 3 sets of dates here on this slide, the first of which being May 25th and 26th. Now each of these sets is an either or. You only need to participate in one of the 2 trainings, but we're offering concurrent trainings in an effort to jive with everyone's schedules. The first training date is going to be specifically with our new provider for the system around things like how to navigate, how to save things, how to just basically work within the new platform. And then as we progress into June, we're going to have trainings with members of our team that are specific to completing the application itself, and then some more information specific to the budget and invoice side of the equation. We're not saying specifically that certain individuals within the district have to attend certain trainings. In fact, I would probably I think I speak for our team when we would encourage everybody to attend all 3 trainings if their schedule allows, just to get a sense of, the ins and outs of this new system, because it's going to be, inherently a little bit different than what we have now, based on the fact that we are moving forward with a new developer in a new system. But we're confident and optimistic that this is a good move for us, and for each of you. It's going to be hopefully a much easier system to navigate. Things will be easier to complete, and there'll be less technical issues, if you will, that we experience in the course of completing our work.
Thank you, Travis.
There is a question in the chat about, will CARES Act remain in GEM and others move to Grants for Me?
Yeah, so Dawn, I believe that is the plan right now. Because basically CARES Act funding and all the other emergency relief funding has like a definitive start and end date, we're not, I don't think we're at least at this point migrating that over into the new platform. The new platform will really be for the various federal programs that will have ongoing funding for, so ESEA, IDEA, CT, etc. So it'll be all of our normal programs moving into the new platform.
Thank you.
And Lori, great question. We were actually just talking about this earlier today. I believe we posted something as far as registration links already with the newsletter, but we'll be sending separate communication out to everybody over the next day or so that folks can go in and register for whichever trainings are going to work for them. And I believe it'll go out to each of the ESEA coordinators and business managers.
Yes.
But just as a cautionary measure, I would encourage everyone to maybe just forward it on to any other colleagues or support staff they may have working in the grant management system, so that they can sign up and be a part of those trainings as well.
And I believe they've been entered into the department's professional development calendar. I think Terry will talk about that later.
That's a great segue into our next slide and another introduction to Terry Peasley, our ESEA Professional Development Coordinator. So Terry, take it away.
Just not too far away, right?
That's right.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to join this group today. I've not had the professional opportunity to before, but hopefully this won't be my last time to crash the party. I'm here to promote the Department of Maine Education's professional development calendar. There is a font of information there, and there's also a concerted, concentrated effort for all of the trainings that the Department of Education offers to be housed within that calendar. I know that in the past, it has been actually quite a menagerie of ways to gain information about what's going on at the Department of Education in the realm of professional learning for our schools. And under the current administration, we are trying very hard to make this the place to go for all things professional learning. So on this slide, you'll see the link to the calendar. If you hit on our landing page and you scroll all the way down, there's a list of other links, and that's where you're going to find the DOE calendar. And I know in all of your spare time, laugh, but it's time well spent. To get used to it, to navigate through it, you can search by content area, you can search by dates, or you can just peruse the calendar to find out what topics are being offered and when. And the link to the registration is always there in the calendar. And if any of you get there and have questions about, I don't get it, or how do I find more information, please reach out to me. My contact information is at the bottom of the slide. And I am happy to help anyone navigate to, from, and through the Department of Education's professional learning calendar. So that's my spiel, that's my shtick. And I hope to hear from some of you with questions about it, because that means you're looking at it. So thank you very much.
And Terry, I believe the registrations for the trainings that Travis just talked about are already in that calendar.
That is correct. And there is a link to register you when you register. I did it the other day, so I know exactly what I was talking about. When you register, you will get an email back, and Cheryl will be thanking you for registering for this, for this training. And with that thank you email comes the link to the training. So don't bury it in your emails, folks. Somehow, you know, earmark it so you can get that link on the day of the training. But you do have to sign up for each individual training. Just signing up for one doesn't mean that you're going to get into the other one. So you've got the dates that were in this slide deck. The dates are in their newsletter. And then if you go to the professional development calendar, those dates are listed there as well. So you can get there several different ways.
And I'll be sending out an email blast after today's virtual office hours to the ESEA coordinators and the business managers, so that you'll specifically with those dates.
Perfect.
All right, Travis.
Sure. So one thing that we're going to, I guess, kind of test the waters with today is with these office hours, you know, we have a brief number of updates to provide folks, but we often have a pretty significant chunk of time at the end of these. And, you know, as much as we all appreciate having the gift of time back, we thought we'd might try and make a little bit better use of it. We're in somewhat of a unique forum right now in that we have, you know, ESEA coordinators from various parts of the state all convening to kind of sit and learn about some of the things we have going on. But I think it's also a good opportunity for those of you who are participating today to talk and learn from one another. So for the time being, just kind of pause and think if there are any successes or challenges or anything like that that you might like to share, brag about, you know, get input on from some of your colleagues. But I think Jackie had one thing she wanted to mention that might start off some conversation this morning. So Jackie, you want to jump in?
Sure. So we've had many districts transition to school-wide authority over the last few years. And so we're trying to get a sense of, for those districts that have schools with school-wide authority, how has the use of your Title I or other ESEA resources, and when I talk about resources, I'm talking about people and funding. So how has the use of these resources changed now that you have school-wide authority, that flexibility allowed? And how has the delivery of school-wide interventions and student support changed? So that's one way we can, the discussion can go. But the other side, we want to know that if you have this authority and it hasn't changed, if you're still doing Title I in the same targeted way that you always have, that's fine. We'd like to know that. And also, what might be preventing you from changing how you deliver supports for students? So we're kind of trying to get feedback and input from all of you on both sides. School-wide authority, how has things changed? School-wide authority, if it hasn't changed, why hasn't it? And we have Dawn, who's raised a hand.
I'm trying to raise my hand this time instead of just interrupting everyone like sometimes I do, because when thoughts come into my head, I have to say them quickly because they go out just as fast. So one thing, Jackie, you asked about 6 questions, so I'm gonna.
No, I've only done 4. Two for one side and 2 for the other.
I was like, whoa, I lost her on question 3. But the first thing, I had 2 schools this year go to school-wide, and I still have 3 targeted. So it's really interesting to see the difference between the 2 happening at the same time. One of the things about the school-wide that I've really liked this year is that since we have such widespread issues around students needing intervention and needing extra help and needing this and needing that in those 2 school-wide schools, it's been really nice to be able to provide that to the whole entire school instead of worrying about just the targeted students. And so I have found that to be very helpful as far as Title I school-wide is concerned. My other schools,
How do you spread? You still have a limited resource. You still have limited resources. How do you spread those people or the services out to across the school? What
we would do is, for example, buy or provide Lexia to more students than just our Title I students. So
Okay.
if we have some other students that are not identified as Title I who are below, then we're able to provide them with some of the interventions like licenses or materials that we wouldn't have been able to do before.
Okay, and that's what I'm looking for, those specific things that are changing. What are you doing differently? Okay. Okay, so that's great. Thank you. Erica has her hands up, or I see Erica's hand up.
I'm not sure our changes are very new. They are about 2 years old, but we shifted from largely an ed tech delivery practitioner model to a fully certified teacher being the, being the intervention teacher. We've also made very discrete the intervention resources that are being used in the highest areas of need. So we've matched the most qualified people with the most needy students, and then we have matched very specific resources that are not available everywhere. They're not available in tiers 1 and 2 necessarily, unless very strategically placed. So we're trying to be very clear about where the lines are, which seems to be helping our data. Our data are improving dramatically, and the number of referrals has been reduced dramatically. So we're quite happy about that. And then the clarity on return from special services has a soft landing into the tier 3, and then a phasing back in. So that's been working really well. And in Title II, year 2 of having a project around SEL. So instead of just academic areas, focusing on SEL. So that's been working really well for us, but it's year 2, both those things.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Jackie, it looks like there's one question that came up in the chat specific to this train of conversation here. How is meeting students' needs different in school-wide versus targeted assistance? Aren't you still concentrating on struggling students in both programs?
Yes. The intent of, to me, the intent of school-wide is that you're trying to meet the needs of our struggling students more at the tier 1 level than you are at a tier 2 or 3 level. You're trying to integrate it at the lowest of levels rather than at the higher level, so that or you're trying to change how the educational program is set up and delivered. You're trying to integrate those intervention strategies while also delivering core instruction. That's kind of where I go with trying to convert or change from targeted to school-wide. In high poverty, high needs school, it's hard to have students to reach the level of achievement that you need to if you're not changing the delivery of the educational program itself. Having add-on programs and supports isn't always the ideal situation. You're trying to get down to core instruction and meet students' needs there. These resources can focus on that, and you're looking for those strategies to integrate it at that level, rather than pulling and having independent, isolated interventions for individual students.
All right, let's see here. So, Melanie, I don't know if you want to unmute your line and ask your question, but it looks like you're looking for more information or maybe some examples from other folks around the state of how they leverage Title II funds to support teacher recruitment, and what might be some projects or activities that others have underway in that area. Not sure if anyone else on the line is doing anything specifically to recruitment, teacher recruitment, maybe with Title II funds or otherwise, Title V funds or anything they might leverage under school-wide authority. So I'm gonna probably take that as a no. Let me see here. Cheryl, do you have any thoughts on this particular question with regard to leveraging Title II funds?
I'm
Ask,
sorry, were you talking to me, Travis? Someone
I
came into
was,
my
yep.
office and I had to have
No, it's
that
okay, Melanie.
conversation. So yes, I'm interested in spending some funds on recruitment, but I don't know what's allowable, what does that look like? We've never done it before. So.
Well, part of it is if the universities that are graduating those teachers hold an open house and you need to send someone there to, be recruiting for your district, and there's cost involved in that, you can pay for those costs to do that. That's one idea.
Okay, good.
If there's any publications that you want to put out to you can pay for those publications.
Does it allow any sort of like sign-on bonuses or anything like that?
I'm thinking as long as your teacher contracts allow for it, if your district allows for it, I believe it is a cost that can be used.
Okay. We're just finding that every year that's our biggest, we can't get staff. Like we have vacant positions for all year, and then I have to carry those funds over because I can't find people to fill them. So we've got to do something different.
Right.
And I can't change the contract.
I know.
People more, it's just.
Right. And it's not just about recruitment, it's about retention as well. So you can think about what you can do to support teachers who are currently on your staff, and, what do you need to do to retain them? And there is some, there is a Title II non-regulatory guidance that's accessible out on our website under, I think it might be called Guidance tab.
Yeah.
I'll
And
grab the
then
link for it, Jackie,
You can go
real
to
quick.
Title II, and there's some guidance there. And I believe they have a section on retention and recruitment.
Is it not a very common thing that people use Title II funds for?
People have, I think people just haven't dared to go there yet.
Yeah.
And, it might be time. And sometimes they feel their hands are tied about, how can you truly use, the question that you asked, how can you truly use your Title II money for these purposes? And, it's good that if we can all brainstorm together. Most of the activities, that's a focus of the use of those funds. And I'm sure if it's linked to recruitment, that you can, and your district allows you to, I'm sure the program guidance allows for it.
Okay.
You can always check with one of us and talk it through. We can read the guidance, statute, and because right now we're short on Title II expertise at this moment. We all know enough to probably be a little dangerous.
I
your
was
point-
gonna, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Don.
See, I did it. I was gonna just share one thing with Melanie that I'm aware of. It's not what I do. I am aware of a district close to mine, and she's not here today. They, as far as like retaining teachers, like Jackie referred to, one of the neighboring districts to us has a new teacher, like a class, and they meet once a month, and they have books that they read about, because teacher burnout the first 1, 2, or 3 years for probationary teachers is so high. It's kind of like a how-to class and sort of a support group, and it's really awesome. It's really awesome. And I can privately tell you that person's name. She wouldn't mind. She's just done a great job, and it helps her new teachers so she can retain them. So I think, wouldn't that be allowable, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be an allowable use.
Thank you.
That's, as long as it's not part of something that you already need to do. As part of new teacher programming, they need to, I think there's requirement for mentoring and a mentoring program. And so if it's the first year they have to mentor these teachers to do blah, 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 then these funds can't be used to do that, but you can do something in addition to that to under the auspices of to retain them.
All right. So I'm seeing a few other folks jump in the chat, just reiterating that they take a similar approach here as far as, you know, supporting new teachers in their first few years of employment within the district. Are there any additional thoughts, questions, anything going really well that folks might want to share or brag about with some of your colleagues?
Travis, we have something that we're doing at Wyndham Primary School that's going really, really well. But then on the other side, I'm not quite sure I'm going to capture it correctly for accounting purposes. We have hybrid and we have a fully remote team. And because of our ed techs are really scrambling this year to meet the needs of kids, and it's really hard when we're not having our usual instruction. But they've designed 15-minute video Zooms for kids when they're on their off day. The kids actually Zoom in and they get a 15-minute intervention in person, and our ed techs are just blowing it out of the water. So kids Zoom in on their off day, they get 15 minutes of Jolly Phonics, and it's very targeted to kids who need that help. And then they Zoom off and they're good. But the our ed techs are really excited to be able to see those kids on their off days, even for just 15 minutes, to touch base with them and review a skill or pre-teach a skill. And it's going really, really well. I've been able to jump in, and it's been really exciting for them to see those kids, because obviously in person now, with the number of cases we're having here, we're really trying to stick to different cohorts of kids and, you know, for contract tracing. So it's given us another opportunity to work with kids. The downside of that, and I apologize, I missed the first part of the call, and maybe Travis, this is a chance we can connect later, is, you know, usually we have a pretty strict, you know, piece of how we qualify kids for Title I. And this year it's kind of blown out of the water because we're doing our iReady diagnostic or testing, but we're not covering nearly what we usually do. And we can't put every single kid into Title I, they're behind. So where do we draw that line to get those permission slips we need to help kids? So it's a great thing, but then it's a two-headed coin right now, I feel like, so.
Well, I mean, Christine, that's a great example of, you know, something that's, you know, relatively simple to do, but can be incredibly effective, right? Taking those students who, you know, on those remote days may, you know, potentially not otherwise be engaged in school or engaged in face-to-face interactions of any kind, and just offering them back that time. I think that's a really awesome idea, and I'm glad to hear it's going well. And we can chat more too, Christine, after this about some of the other pieces that you had mentioned.
Thank you, Travis.
Yep. So Dawn had posed a question in the chat here. Is anyone willing to share a Title IV school-wide project that's going well?
Bueller. I'm gonna say that's no. So thanks.
I
Dawn,
actually could share a couple that I think are going well. So we have all of our schools are school-wide, and so they use both Title I, II, and IV in their school-wide programs. But the IV we use to target attendance because that's one of our big areas of need. So we're working with the Count Me In, Susan Lieberman, to provide professional development around attendance. Actually, no, I think that's under 2. Sorry, I forgot which category that was under. What we're doing under 4 is we're working with Dr. Allison Roy, who works with Cassie Yackley, and she's doing some work with our staff on trauma-informed practices. And so between those two things, we're really getting, I think, a better look at our kids, not just academically, but their whole person and what their needs are as a whole and how we need to respond to that as a building. So I'm pretty excited with the combination of those things in a school-wide project. It seems to be bringing what all of the kids need for their whole selves, not just academics. So I think we're getting to a place of having some pretty good supporting PD as well as practices to support kids.
Thank you.
And I'll just add too, with the shift to school-wide, that was several years ago now. We've been doing school-wide for a long time. And the bigger shifts that I think we kept our reading recovery program, which was our targeted program, just because of its effectiveness. But the shifts that I've seen in terms of the whole school owning the progress of their children, like the leadership teams are pretty responsible now for, it's not a small group of people writing a title project, and it really is the school owning it and looking out for the progress of all of their kids. So that's a big shift. And I think the other big shift is that all parents are title parents. So when we do family engagement events, it's everybody is invited. So it's been able to kind of lift the whole ship a little bit better, I think, and more effectively than just sending out the lifeboats. It really is like the whole system is kind of raised to a level of looking at data, thinking about their kids' progress, taking ownership of it and taking action on it. So that's, I think, the biggest benefit in going to a school-wide.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. That's really, really good information and good food for thought, I think, for anybody who's, maybe toying with the idea of applying for school-wide authority here, either this year or in the next couple of years.
It took us a while. Like at first, the principals weren't really owning it. They were reluctant to take, to write the reports and do all of that work. But now that we've got them on board, they're fully in. So it's good.
Awesome. Dawn, does that give you a good bit of information to work with, do you think?
Yeah, that's good. I'm always searching for valid and Title IV projects. I always am, because it's hard to decide which one to do. You kind of got to hold on to it and follow it through. So
yeah, I mean, as state coordinator for Title IV, I know all the ins and outs, and there's tons and tons of different things that you can do with it. It's not all that targeted program. It's meant to be like a multi-purpose flexible program. And so really, I think for anybody who may be having difficulty in figuring out how best to leverage those funds, really just take a hard look at your local needs assessment and, see in what ways you might be able to leverage that funding to help meet some of those needs, whether it's student attendance, whether it's, school climate or SEL or really academics, or, what I mean? There's a wide breadth and depth of things that can be supported with those funds. And I think, to your point, Dawn, it can just sometimes be almost too open-ended. And it's kind of hard to nail down what those specific interventions are that are going to have the best impact.
We also purchased our second step curriculum through Title IV, and that's made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of people around the state are doing that too.
yeah, we did that 2 years ago. Yeah.
So not to shift gears too much, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions here. But I see Teresa posed something in the chat here. She would appreciate ideas anyone has for schools that lose Title I status. So maybe a school that no longer met eligibility criteria or transitions from that grandfathered year to no longer being eligible. Has anyone experienced something along these lines? I'm hearing crickets again.
Okay, I'll let you know how we handle it then.
Okay.
No, Teresa, I do need to call you regarding that. Some of the decisions that were made this week and that we announced earlier in the our updates was the use of your options for using last year's data to determine school rank and distribution. With that decision and that information, it might change the outcome for TPS at this time.
It might, it's hard because I feel like they've already done their grandfather year. But I'm happy to talk to you about it. So
Okay, that's true. Let's think about it. I just want to think about it.
all right,
What?
you think about it and then we'll talk.
Okay.
Teresa, would you be able to use ESSER 2 or 3 just to keep your staff? Do you have staff, title staff that?
I actually don't think we're not going to necessarily lose staff because we have an open position right now. So I think we can do some shifting.
Yeah.
We did have the foresight to hire one person through the general budget. So it will be a reduction of a half a person, but I think the school is going to not see it I think some of the staff are not going to see it that way. I think the principals tried to be super proactive, but maybe we could use some of our ESSER 3. Our 2 is already committed. So, but that's a good idea, Dawn.
Yeah, I wonder about the 3 because it's that you've got a block of time, a chunk of time, and that would give you your school board time to think about if that's a position they want to keep and then put it in the regular budget then. But that's one thing about the 3 that I'm hearing that sounds really positive is that it is 2 years and you can make that plan. So maybe that would help you.
Thank you.
There's also the transferability of funds to Title 5. And then under Title 5, you can service Title 1 interventions at any school. So there's also that option.
Yep. All good ideas. Let me see here. I'm just trying to see if there's any final pieces here in the chat. Jackie, do you see this question around free and reduced lunch percentage eligibility?
Yep, I can revisit those. Revisit that. So if you have less than 1,000 students within your district, all your schools are eligible, Title I eligible. If you only have if you have more than 1,000 students and only one building at each grade level, so one K-5, one middle school, and one high school, all those schools are eligible. Other than that, so if you have more than 1,000 students and you have more than one building at each level, then any school above 35% is eligible. Or any school above the district average. So if your district average is 22%, then any school above 22% would be eligible. And then the last eligible provision is if a school was eligible in the previous year and served, but is not eligible this year, they're eligible for that one additional year under the grandfather provision. So those are the eligibility provisions in statute.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, you're welcome.
All righty. Well, I think we're about approaching the end of our time together here this morning. I want to thank everybody who chimed in and offered thoughts, suggestions, and even those who, sought help from colleagues. I think this is maybe a good exercise and something that we'll try and continue to do throughout these office hours as times and circumstances change and we need to bounce different ideas off of one another. I think this is a really good forum to try and keep doing that.
Thank you, Travis. Yes, we really thought that collaboration is something that is a nice addition to these meetings, and we had the time, so we appreciate your involvement in that. And this should give you some insight for future meetings, knowing that you can bring ideas, questions, challenges, successes to the table, and we're going to try to be able to offer that time on an ongoing basis, unless our agenda is packed full and we just don't get to it. But our goal is to bring you into that conversation as well, because you are each other's support as well. So please know that we are here to support you in any way that we can. We are a small but mighty team today, and our team is growing. Next week, we do have a new member joining our team. I think we've mentioned it before. Jessica Karen is the newest member that will be coming onto our team and joining us as a regional program manager with she's going to gain her expertise in Title I, shoulder to shoulder with all of the program managers, and try to kind of put her head right next to Jackie's and allow all that information in Jackie's head to kind of funnel through into hers. But our team does continue to grow. We are also still in the process of getting the Title II position filled as well. So be prepared to see some new faces joining our meetings in the future. But until then, we are all still here to continue to support you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. And if we don't have the answers, we'll make sure that we get them for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.